In my last video, I talked about what is coming for the Utah Jazz this upcoming season with Lauri Markkanen and how it can potentially still lead to getting Cooper Flagg for the Jazz. And a lot of you had comments about my views on these things and what I have said in the past. And I wanted to just talk about, did I change my mind or have I flip-flopped? Is the Hoops Nerd a flip-flopper? Is he a flip-flopper in this political season? And Cooper Flagg and Lauri Markkanen, and I want to just give one giant no, and I'm going to explain why. Now, I get it. Those of you who had certain viewpoints that were different than mine, you know what? You're a lot like me. You came to that video, you wanted to make some comments, and you made them. And you went through and you liked all the ones that agree with you. And honestly, I respect it. That's the way of the sports fan. That's what you do. That's what I would have done with all of you had the Jazz traded Lauri Markkanen. It just didn't go how the Hoops Nerd wanted it. But I have to say that I did not change my mind, because if you go watch the Andy Larson video, if you go watch the Ken Clayton video, I talked about this plan for the Jazz being the most likely scenario that they were going to do. So I knew that this was very likely what was going to happen. I just had some reasons that I didn't really want to go that route. I can see why the Jazz did that route. We, as if I'm the Jazz. I can see why the Jazz did that route, but I felt like trading Lauri Markkanen kind of fit my goals a little bit more, what I wanted to do. So this video is going to be a little bit longer because I just wanted to discuss that. This is going to be a little more podcasty. There's not going to be as much editing, and that's fine. Anyways, there really were I guess you could say three ways of thinking the Jazz could go through this upcoming season. The first one that I don't think anyone agreed with, including the Jazz, was that the Jazz just go out and get talent to try to win as many games as possible. And that was just very clearly not going to happen. The Jazz did not have a ton of space, and basically any sort of chance of that happening died when the Utah Jazz didn't get Mikal Bridges. Now, I think maybe Ryan Smith, that might have been what he wanted to do. I think Ryan Smith legitimately would have wanted to go get like a star like that, have him play with Lauri Markkanen, use trade assets to go get another star, and then there you go. And that's a route I think a lot of fans might have been okay with. I wouldn't have wanted that route because I think there would have been a ceiling to what you are. I mean, if you have Mikal Bridges and Lauri Markkanen, you're going to be a pretty good basketball team, possibly a playoff team. But I don't think you're a championship basketball team, and I don't know if it really got that player on the Jazz that you really want that leads you to the promised land. And that's really what came down to the two ways of thinking that a lot of Jazz fans, the majority of Jazz fans, probably felt. That in some way, shape, or form, the Utah Jazz have to get a superstar on your team. Now, the question is, can you do that with or without Lauri Markkanen? And my opinion was, I always said that you could with Lauri Markkanen. It's just riskier, right? If you want Cooper Flagg and Lauri Markkanen, there's some risk there. And it's going to take the Jazz doing a lot of things that they did last year post-trade deadline to make that happen. And the reason why I was pro-trading Lauri Markkanen is because I just inherently believe, and honestly, it's just empirically undeniable. If you want to win an NBA championship, you have to have an MVP or an MVP caliber player on your team. If you don't have Jokic or Giannis, and I guess you could argue Jason Tatum's not an MVP, but he's a top 5 to 10 guy, depending on who you ask. You at least need a top 10 guy, I guess you could say. But then, LeBron James wins the title. Jokic, Giannis, all these guys, Kawhi Leonard, all these guys, Steph Curry, all these guys that have won the title have either won an MVP or have been like top 2 or 3 in MVP voting, right? It's honestly, that's just the requirement. And Cooper Flagg has a chance to be that guy. And so, you can get Cooper Flagg with Lauri Markkanen. You just have to do things in a OKC kind of way. What they did with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is probably resting a lot of games. Back ends to back-to-back. Probably not going to play. Post-trade deadline, probably going to have some sort of fluke injury. And Tim McMahon talked about that in the Hoop Collective podcast. You should go listen to that. That is likely something, and him saying that that was a possibility makes me happy, because I think that was the biggest thing that made me worry about this Lauri Markkanen thing, which, by the way, hasn't happened yet. They still have to prove it. Was that, are they willing to do what it takes with Lauri Markkanen to get Cooper Flagg? It means lots of rest. It means random injuries. You know, the Jazz have done this the last 2 seasons with some of these players, especially post-trade deadline. All of a sudden, Jordan Clarkson has ankle injuries or hamstring stuff or muscle soreness, you know, or can't play itis. Those types of things are going to happen, and we heard from Tim McMahon that we'll likely see some of those types of things. But what scares me is freaking Will Hardy. Awesome basketball coach. Last 2 seasons, he has had stretches during the year. 2 years ago, it was the beginning of the year where the Jazz start 10-3. And then last year, they go on that stretch of 10 to 15 games where they won at like a 70% clip. And that's what scares me, because Lauri Markkanen makes those possibilities happen, where Utah just has a stretch where they're playing bad teams. Lauri Markkanen's playing. You have rookies figuring things out, and all of a sudden you're pretty good at a pretty good basketball team. And you have a hot stretch. Colin Sexton figures things out like he did last year. The Jazz find some cohesion and things like that. That's what makes me nervous, because at the end of the day, I hate going into the offseason being like 8 or 9. It's the worst. 2 years ago, we looked at Bilal Coulibaly, who, by the way, looked fantastic in the Olympics this year. He's not on the Jazz. And I think Taylor Hendricks has a chance to be nice. But if anyone's saying they think that he has proven that he's going to be a can't-miss awesome prospect, I don't know. There have been times in Summer League where he's looked nice, and there's been times where it's like, how did you score 2 points in Summer League? You know? So I don't want to go into another offseason and look at a player that we could have had, and he's not there, especially if the Jazz, and that's really where I wanted to trade Lauri Markkanen. This is basically what it boils down to. At the end of the season, without Lauri Markkanen, the Jazz can pretty much ensure they're going to be a bottom 1, 2, or 3 team in the league. Everything everyone says about the Western Conference being bad is true. It's true. But guess what? There's a lot of bad teams in the Eastern Conference that are going to lose a lot of basketball games. And I would much rather go into this offseason as the number 1 and get jumped than be the number 5 and get jumped. Because it's a lot worse to go from 5 to 7 than it is. It's a lot worse to go from 5 to 8 than it is to go to 1 to 4, right? Because in this draft, which is a better draft than the Victor Wembanyama is better than any player in this draft, obviously. But you've got Cooper Flagg, who would have gone number 2 in that draft, for sure. But what makes this draft great is that 3, 4, 5, 6 are really awesome, you know, and we're going to see some players rise and some players drop and things like that. But, you know, if you're like number 4 in this draft, you're either getting VJ Edgecombe, you're getting Nolan Traore, who, by the way, Traore with Gobert and Wembanyama and all those is going to, France might win gold in 4 years with Traore. He looks fantastic. He looks like the best kind of, well, it's a question between Traore and Dylan Harper in this draft, but you can get one of those guys. Dylan Harper, 6'6" point guard who can play 1 or 2, just going to be an absolute monster. In the Hoop Summit, he looked incredible. He was the MVP of the game with Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey on the floor. And that's Dylan Harper. He's going 3. So that's what scares me. You know, if you're going into this draft and you're the worst team in the NBA and you get the number 1 pick, and let's say you drop 2 spots. Let's say you still fit into the top 4, but you go to 3, you know? You're still getting a choice of Dylan Harper, Traore, VJ Edgecombe, Drake Powell, all these different guys. You know, maybe Kaman Malawach looks incredible for Duke. You know, or some of these other guys. I mean, there's so many guys in this draft. And so I just don't want to miss out. I don't want to be sitting at 7 or 8 when you could have been at 4 or 5. Does that make sense? That's really the thing. Now, I kind of respect the ballsiness of this move, the absolute audacity of it, because guess what? There is a world where you go in and you're like the 5th worst team and you win the lottery with Lauri Markkanen. And then all of a sudden things get pretty bonkers at that point. Now you're Cooper Flagg and Lauri Markkanen, and Cooper Flagg is going to be awesome. He has a chance to be one of those alien players. And I've talked about this before, is that, there's guys that are all-stars, there's guys that are even all-NBA, and then there's guys that are aliens. And you want an alien because those aliens become the MVPs. Giannis is an alien. There's no one like him. Jokic, alien. Who in the NBA is like Jokic? LeBron, he's an alien. There's no one like him. Steph Curry, he's an alien. There's just no one like him. Completely unique. Cooper Flagg has that ability with his size, his combination of defense. He looks like he could be a LeBron light or something like that. He's just got a combination of a lot of things. He's going to be awesome. He's going to be one of the cornerstones of Team USA and has a chance to be a top 5 guy, and that's what you want. And so if you can get that guy and you get your cornerstone piece and you've got Lauri Markkanen, who, he will age well, but he is an off-ball player, all of a sudden things get interesting. And then the Jazz have questions to answer because then they go into 2026 with a top 8 protected pick. How do they keep that top 8 protected pick? And by the way, that's the other thing that Tim McMahon mentioned that everyone in those comments doesn't seem to mention, is that this only gives Lauri Markkanen a year of safety. It's a 5-year deal. So even after this year, it's a 4-year deal. And everything everyone said, I don't imagine any of you watched every single one of those different rumor videos that I do, and I'm going to keep doing them. Every time there's a rumor, we're going to have it here, by the way. But a lot of those rumors also mentioned, especially when the offers from Golden State were not there, those rumors all kept mentioning that Lauri Markkanen gets much more value with more years on his contract. So we're not done. Honestly, next year is probably going to be a lot of Lauri Markkanen rumors again, because that's what happened with Danny Ainge. It's like that meme, get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. When Danny Ainge is your general manager, get ready to learn trade rumors, buddy, because that's what it is. So it's just going to happen. It will likely happen next year, whether the Jazz win Cooper Flagg or not. And the other thing of that video that I did last time, go watch the video. I would love the views. And like and subscribe and all the things. But the thing is that even if they get Cooper Flagg, they have to decide if that is going to be enough with Lauri Markkanen to be the team they want to be. Because all these contracts they've done, Clarkson, Collins, Sexton, they still have 1 year left, and the Jazz have to decide if they want a top 8 pick or not. And if they're going to be top 8, they're going to have to make some tough decisions. And it comes right back to Lauri Markkanen. Now, there were a lot of rumors that came from a lot of different places, but some of those rumors came from Woj himself. And knowing that Justin Zanuck has a very close relationship with Wojnarowski, all the different Jazz front office, when Woj says it, it comes from very valid places. So I don't know what's going to happen this year. And by the way, I want to end on this note too. And everyone here knows that I am a Jazz fan, maybe the biggest Jazz fan in the world. I don't know. Some may disagree. But this team, I have to talk about it for a year. Do all of you want me to just sit there and complain that they should have traded Lauri Markkanen all year? No, that's not fun for you, and that's not fun for me. I don't want to have a show that's just complaining. I am going to talk about what the Jazz do, and based off of what the Jazz do, then I adjust. Right? Now, next offseason, we'll probably have a lot of these same discussions, more than likely. But now we're going into the season. So I'm going to talk about what's going on with the Jazz right now, discuss it based off of what the Jazz have decided to do, and we'll move on. It's okay. We adjust. We're all fans. We now can all root together, and I am going to root for the Jazz to lose every single game. I want to see the young guys develop. That's what we're going to watch. I'm going to get enjoyment out of that. I'm going to enjoy watching guys like Isaiah Collier and Sensabaugh and Filipowski and Cody Williams and see how they look. Do they develop as the year goes on? Because that's the other thing that McMahon mentioned, is that we are going to see a lot of young play. Now, I want to see Sexton and Clarkson and all these guys traded sooner than later, because I do not want to see them win some games for the Jazz. I don't want it. I want to see the young guys develop. I want them to get all the minutes, get some time with Lauri Markkanen, and then watch him take a cruise during the year. Lots of PTO. Take all of it, Markkanen. Unlimited PTO is the name of the game for this season, okay? So does that make sense? I wanted to talk about it. There's two rules of thought, basically. The Jazz obviously went with the Lauri Markkanen one. It could have also just been based off of the fact they did not get the trade they wanted. That's also what it could be, because a lot of teams don't want to trade for a player that's just going to leave in free agency. Are you guys going to give up 4 first-round picks for a player you're not sure if you're going to keep? If a team knows they're going to get him for 4 years, no player option, that gives 4 years. And teams out there can justify 4 first-round picks for 4 years, right? So we'll see what happens. But that's where I want it. Am I a flip-flopper? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Flip-flopper or not? Are you voting for me or not? All right, guys. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.